Why, hello everybody. Welcome to another lovely episode of The Candid Savage. I am your host, Ashley Mitzier from Ottawa, Canada. If you've never tuned in to the Candid Savage podcast, one, you'll know that I can't talk half the time. And two, we talk about everything health, fitness, lifestyle, business, and whatever else falls in between. And today I have, like usual, an awesome guest, but this one is probably my first, like the craziest athlete I've probably had on this. This is episode 16. So I've had some pretty funky people on here. But with this episode in particular, I have someone named Morgan Mckay, who's from Ottawa as well. So some homegrown talent here. I'm just going to name off 5, like this is top 5. She's done so much more shit, but top 5 races that she's done. She's an elite OCR ultra runner. So we're talking like these 24-hour death races and shit. This is what Morgan does. The like toughest challenges in the world. So I'm going to name off some top 5s here before we bring her in. So she placed first the Battlefrog Extreme 24-hour race in 2016. She placed third in 2016 as well for the world's toughest mudder. First place finish in the Deadend Race. I'll get her to explain that one. Spartan World Ultra Champ in 2017. And this is, like, those are all ridiculous, but this one's, I love this one. She holds a Guinness World Record. She's a holder for the fastest 10 kilometer carrying 100 pounds on her back. And that was done this year in 2018. Everyone, I want you just to listen to Morgan Mckay here. We're bringing her in. Morgan, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm like just jazzed up reading your top 5.
Oh, thank you. You make it.
What was it like running fucking 10? Like I can't even run 10 kilometers anymore because I suck at cardio. But how was it running the fastest 10 kilometers with 100 pounds on your back?
I'm not gonna lie. It was actually really awful. Like seriously, within the first kilometer, I was seriously questioning, like, what am I doing and how am I going to finish this? And it was on such a hot day too, that like I was sweating profusely, like within the first 5 minutes.
I don't know how you did that.
But
I saw that you were doing that. I'm like, this girl's fucked.
That's generally what people say to me. I think I'm normal, but...
Yeah, but...
I guess I'm not.
That's insane.
Oh, yeah.
Man. So, how long have you been doing these ultras for? Because I know when I met you way back, you had just started doing, like, Spartans and stuff.
Yeah.
So, how long has it been?
So, I started in 2012. So,
okay.
I guess about 6 years now.
Crazy. What got you into it?
I started with a 5K Spartan race, and like at the time I wasn't athletic, and my cousin's like, let's do this Spartan, like it'll be fun. I was like, all right. So like I show up and it's at Camp Fortune. I'm like, oh my God, we have to run up this ski hill. Like I'm gonna die. And but anyway, so I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'll do this race. And I was dying. Like it was so hard. I had never done anything that hard in my life, like to this point. And I finished the race and I felt so awesome. Like I was like, man, that was the hardest thing ever. But like I felt so accomplished. And I had no idea what this whole obstacle racing world was all about. So I went home and I Googled anything to do with Spartan race. And then that's when I stumbled upon the Spartan Death Race, which is like a 3-day race with like a 10% finishing rate. And I have no idea why, but it really appealed to me. I was like, I have to do this race. Like, I bet if I, started training and working out and like eat better and all that, I bet I could do the race. So that's kind of what I did for the next 8 months. Like I quit my job and I became a trainer and I just trained like insane. And then I went and did the Spartan Death Race and I've just been like hooked on endurance racing ever since.
I guess it's kind of similar to me because I mean, here you are being like, yeah, death race, 3 days,
Oh
let's do
no.
it. Most people will be like, what the fuck? And then there's me that's like, yeah, I'll take a punch to the face and step in a ring with people. So I get that part. Um, but I'm still looking at the list of shit that you've done. So you quit your job. Like, what were you doing before you decided to get into
So I
this
used
mess?
to run a lawn cutting company with my ex-boyfriend. So
Did you run it with 100 pounds on your back?
no. But you know what? Maybe that got me, I was in better shape than I thought I was. Cause like I was, cutting, 20 lawns a day, and it's pretty hard work. You're
Huh.
out there in the hot baking sun and try to cut the lawns as fast as you can so you can make more money per hour.
Valid. So that was like your training wheels.
Yeah, that's true.
Done. And then you went to Good Life
Yeah.
because that's where I met you.
Yeah.
Right on. So you went from cutting lawns, then you became a trainer because you're like, I need to do crazy races. And I remember it was earlier this year. Yeah, it was the ultra. Was that no last year? Was that Iceland?
Yeah. Yeah. Almost
Okay,
exactly 1 year ago.
you need to tell me like how I didn't want to bother you after that race because it was crazy. How like you need to fill us in on this race. It was in Iceland. I
Yeah.
man, like I am like I need to send this girl a fucking message because she's about to be in the shit for 24 hours. So like explain the whole the Iceland race last year.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So it was the first year that Spartan Race put on their own 24-hour ultra event. And so what they did is they got this really cool location in Iceland, and they set up a 5 mile obstacle course. So things like monkey bars, rope climbs, barbed wire crawls, spear throw, sandbag carries.
Mm.
And then basically what you do is you run this loop as many times as you can in 24 hours. But what makes it really, really difficult is it's in Iceland and it's in December. So there are days you're looking at like 4 to 5 hours of sunlight, and then the rest of the race was in the dark.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fun thing with Iceland too is that it was like pouring rain the entire time. And then the rain turned to like hail, and then at one point it turned into a blizzard, and you're like climbing this mountain covered in ice, and I'm just thinking like, oh my god. What am I doing?
Like so you ran that thing for like how was that 24
Yeah, it was
hours?
24 hours.
How does one do that for 24 hours?
Well, you definitely have to have like you have to want it. And I went to Iceland and I had that goal. Like I really wanted to win, and I wanted to run the entire time. So basically the entire race was just sort of willing myself to keep going, hold a strong pace, and just do as well as I could on all of the obstacles. Yeah,
Crazy.
it was nuts.
Like I can train to be on like a beach, but like you're training to be in Iceland running for obstacles for 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time.
Gee, what kind of I know for me, I always wonder what you endurance athletes do for training. Not just because, I train people, but at the same time, what is yours like how many days a week are you training and what kind of training do you do to get yourself ready for, like even a 24-hour race, but like maybe a 1 day race versus maybe three? Like what's your typical training like?
So I would say I train 6 days a week. And usually like a average training day would consist of like an hour to an hour and a half of cardio. So it ranges between like running outside in trails, or one of my favorites is putting like the treadmill at incline 15 to 30%. And then
Favorite? It's like like hell.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It used to be hell, and that was my weakness. Was anything to do with like incline or hill running? I just would like. That's where I would get slaughtered in these races. So I just kind of, I really, really attacked that weakness of mine, and now I actually love it. It's become one of my favorite. Like, I know it sounds super messed up, but just to be on there for an hour on incline and just to like fight through that, then I know when I get to a race and I have to climb a hill that's going to take me 10 minutes. Well, that's way easier than my hour incline session. So I find it just helps me mentally when I get to the race. Yeah, and then so I'll do that. And then if I still have energy, I'll try and do some sort of strength training, usually like after work. And that'll just be like pull-ups, anything sort of like functional training. Yeah, rock climbing, that kind of stuff. Shit. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, more geared to what stuff that you're doing on the track.
Yeah, exactly. Like you won't ever see me using like any sort of like machines to do my training. It's all like pulling myself up and over things.
I just pictured you like climbing over your building, like the gym, and then like climbing down. I don't know why I did that.
Because that's what I used to do, like when I worked at March Road. Yeah, like I would take the battle ropes and like I would wait till no one was looking and I would hang the rope from the ceiling. And then I would climb up and down, and I used to get in trouble. Like, Morgan, you can't do that here.
No such word as can't.
Sorry. Too late.
Now they probably let you do whatever you want.
I don't know. They're kind of strict about that stuff sometimes. So I have to like go to the climbing gym so I can climb on things, or I'll just like go to the park and kick some kids out and be like, hey, I want to play on those monkey bars. These
are my monkey bars. What hills do you run in Ottawa?
I go to Gatineau sometimes. There's this trail, it's called Wolf Trail. That one's probably my favorite. Or I'll go to like KRC. It's just like, a toboggan hill. And I'll just run up and down that. And then like go around the pond, and they have like sort of like an outdoor fitness park. So you can do like pull-ups and dips and like box jumps and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Cool. I'm afraid for my listeners because I know a lot of them are from Ottawa and they probably rode those trails you just mentioned that are your favorite. And they're going to be like, let's go there. And then they'll just fucking suck gas while they're trying to get through the trails. Like, Morgan said it was her favorite.
That's cool. It'd be nice to see more people out there. Like I was running yesterday, and I guess because it was raining, there was nobody out on the trail. And I was like, oh, I'm all by myself.
Yeah, we're all inside sipping on hot cocoa while you're out running through ice and whatever other elements. What I want to tackle this World's Tough Mudder that you did in 2016 because that's like 4 years. About 4 years of you starting your training or getting into your training, and you placed third in the world's toughest mudder. How long was that race, and how was that one for you? Being like, a huge race 4 years in.
This one has kind of always been like a huge goal of mine, and it's 24 hours, and it's kind of similar to the Spartan one, but it's also kind of different. Like with World's Toughest Mudder, it gets pretty cold. Like it can go below zero. And what makes this race, they say one of the hardest races in the world, is that you're constantly being submerged in water. So it's similar setup. You have a 5-mile obstacle course, but the obstacles have a water element to them. So like, say you're doing monkey bars and you fall off those monkey bars, you're falling into water. Or they'll have a pond, and they'll have a bunch of barrels, and you'll have to swim under those barrels. And they just have like tons of things like that. So you're constantly getting soaked. And that's what makes the race so hard, is it's really hard to regulate your temperature when you're in and out of water. So it's just zapping the energy out of you. Yeah. like swimming under barrels, all that kind of thing. Like, and then you're trying to climb up over walls and run, 80 plus miles. It's insane. It's so, so, so hard. And, I've done this race now 6 times.
What?
And yeah. I've done it 6 times. And,
like, where are
like
these? Where the hell are these races? Where do they put them?
Well, the first one I did, it was in New Jersey, and then they moved it to Las Vegas, and that's where it's been for the last 4 years, and that's where I placed third, was in 2016. And I went back this year, but they moved it to Atlanta. And it's just, oh my God, it's just such a beast of a race. Like,
that's crazy.
People are getting taken out in stretchers for hypothermia just because it's just so, it's so cold. Like, it's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's not healthy, that one.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things you have to be really, really careful about. Like, just making sure you're good with your nutrition, that you know how to layer like your wetsuits and windbreakers and all that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. Well, those are actually both questions I was gonna ask you. So, in terms of nutrition, like, how does someone who's just constantly going for 24 hours, what are you doing to fuel yourself that whole time?
Well, people will do different things. What I do is I drink this thing. It's called Tailwind, and it's sort of like a carb powder with electrolytes mixed in. And it was designed by ultra runners because it's really easy on your stomach and it's easy to digest. So what I'll do is I'll drink about 250 to 300 calories an hour.
Wow.
Because that's all your body can really absorb. And if you eat much more than that, you're going to get a lot of cramping. No matter what you do, you're going to get in a deficit. It's just, there's no way around it. So that's sort of my fueling strategy. And then, if my body asks for something else, like I want a chocolate bar or something, that I might eat that in the middle of a race.
Well, there you go. Sugar, boom, done.
Yep.
Have you ever tried doing, like, because like endurance athletes, like, I would wonder, have you ever tried to do anything fat adapted? So it's like a sustained energy release versus using like sugars and carbs. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't. I've heard of other people using it and liking it, but I've also heard of other people using it and not liking it. So for me, I know that my body, it loves carbs, and like I respond really, really well to that.
Fair.
But yeah, no, it's something that I would definitely, look a little bit more into for next year.
That's interesting. So, and what do you do for recovery wise? Like, I know you were telling me before we started recording that you were like, did you just finish one, or you're going into another one?
Yeah. So I attempted World's Toughest Mudder again. And I was doing really well in the race. Like, yeah. So this race was 2 weeks ago, and it was in Atlanta, and I was in 3rd place. I was 15 hours in. And then all of a sudden my body, just for some reason, like it basically just quit on me. Like the will for me to keep going was there. But they do, like, at night, they do medical checks every loop. And I guess when, I was getting my medical check, I was sort of slurring my speech, and I was very dehydrated. So they said, like, hey, just sit down for a little bit. We're just going to check on you. And then I think just going from, running in the freezing cold to now I'm in a hot medical tent and I'm sitting, my body just sort of went into shock. So it's hard for me to say, like, if I had kept going, I think, maybe I might have been okay, or, maybe medically I should have stopped, but I just trust the professionals, and that's what they told me to do. So I respected that. But yeah, so now, like, I still ran, 55 miles and I was out there for 15 hours, and I got another race. It's next weekend in Iceland, I'm going back to defend my title.
So, okay, you have like 2 weeks of recovery for this shit. So how are you doing this?
Yeah,
Like I'm like mind blown right now. Anyone that knows me is probably like, what the fuck is Ashley thinking right now? Because I'm like trying to like go through recovery and like getting your body back up to be able to like go and crush this another insane race. Like, how are you recovering to be able to do this?
Yeah, totally. And like, I wouldn't really recommend that to most people to do such big races back to back, but it's just kind of the way that it's lined themselves. And like, honestly, I wouldn't ever recommend doing more than 1 or 2 of these crazy endurance races in a year, just because it is so hard on your body. So what I'm doing for recovery is I'm getting like deep tissue massage. I'm going to the chiropractor. I did cryotherapy today.
Love it.
Yeah, like really, really. And, I'm sleeping a ton. Like I'm sleeping, anywhere between 9 to 10 hours a night. And then I'm also getting in like a 30 to 40 minute nap midday. And then for my training right now, I'm not going to get fitter in the next 2 weeks. So I'm just taking it light, doing like easy runs, biking, a lot of mobilizing, just eating like really, really healthy foods. And then just staying like super, super focused and positive. And then I would say like 85% where I should be. And then I feel by next weekend, I'll be at 100 or as close to it as I can. And yeah, then I'll have a nice off season.
Yeah. What's one of the other things that you had mentioned is your clothing. How do you know how much to bring or what to bring on these races, since the weather is like, you never know what you're going to get?
So clothing for this, you basically want to be prepared for anything, because like when I was racing in Vegas, you're going from temperatures of like plus 30 during the day, and it can drop to, 0 at night. You're in the desert, so it's not holding any of the heat. And the same goes for Iceland. Like I've been following the weather for the last 2 weeks, preparing to go. And some days it looks sunny, it's plus 6. And then the same goes for Iceland. Like I've been following the weather for the last 2 weeks as I'm preparing to go. And, some days it's showing plus 6 and it's sunny. And then the next day it's like pouring rain. And then the next day it's snowing. So for me, I basically bring everything and multiple layers of everything. I'll bring, like 2 to 3 rain jackets, rain pants. Last year, I was wearing rain pants, and because I fell so many times sliding down the mountain, I completely ripped the ass out of them. I didn't anticipate that happening. So I didn't have an extra pair. So this year I'm going to have an extra pair, because then, you're running around with like this huge hole.
Classy.
Yeah, it was super classy. So yeah, just basically having backups of everything.
So you're running around with your ass out?
Basically, yeah. So
it's classy.
It's super classy.
I like it.
It's how I scare the other girls away from me so they don't pass me.
So it's good for people to hear that, like people that are getting into these ultra races or endurance races, whatever you want to call them. It's good for them to hear that, so that if they decide, hey, I'm also going to be batshit crazy, I'm going to go do one of these races, it's good for them to hear that, what to bring and what to expect. And I think something that was really key was you're checking the weather like 2 weeks out,
yeah,
which is perfect. So you know what you're getting into. And I don't know if a lot of people prep like that. That's a very, very good point.
Yeah, for sure. I want to be as ready as possible.
So like with these races, I'm assuming there's checkpoints after every lap or something like that. So if you do need to change your assless pants, you can.
Yes. You have to change
Perfect.
your assless pants. There's that. What they do is they call it like a pit. So you can set up like bins of your clothes and your nutrition. So every time you finish a loop, you have the opportunity to like go into your pit, change and eat whatever you want, and then go back out.
Oh. So I think the other thing is people like, do you live in the middle of nowhere? Because so a lot of people that don't know how I do my podcasts, I can do them from anywhere. And then we record on a very special site. And it's the best when you get someone that you know lives in the middle of nowhere or near the middle of nowhere because their connection cuts out all the time.
I live in Stittsville. Like it should be pretty good.
Far enough. Other end of
true.
the world.
It's not downtown, so.
That's what we call it, Shitsville.
Shitsville.
I'm kidding.
Thanks.
I'm kidding. Too funny. So I guess another big question. I know for me, competing in sport, mindset has always been like a number one thing and a very important thing to make sure that you're going into the right mindset. So what is something that you do for mental prep?
So what I do is I'm really big on visualization. So what I'll do is I'll actually draw myself standing on the podium in the number one position. And I'll also sort of draw out what the layout is like. So in Iceland, like just picture this. I've drawn myself as a little stick figure on top of podium number one. And behind me, I've got these crazy treacherous ice mountains and obstacles. And then what I'll do when I'm training is I try and place myself in that race. So I'll like when I'm doing my incline, I'll think about myself climbing up the mountain in Iceland. And I just find that's really, really helpful for me. It's sort of like a way of linking my mind and body together. And it really, really helps me get in the zone. And then I find when I'm actually in the race, I don't even really have to think all that much. I just kind of go into like autopilot mode.
So you carry that mindset right through the race.
Yeah.
Like I know sometimes when I read your stuff, when you pop up on my Facebook that like you talk about like having hard times throughout the race and having to dig deep. And I think it was a couple years ago, you actually written stuff on I think it was your shoes or your socks.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I wrote keep going on my shoes.
That's what it was.
Yeah, for sure. Because like sometimes, races go well and other times things happen, like maybe you woke up that morning and you have the flu or, maybe I used to get really intimidated by the other competition there. And I would just, I get it in my head that they're so much better. And, now a girl has lapped me or something like that. And, that little voice in your head is going to be like, oh, you're not good enough to be here. Just quit now. And your body doesn't want to go through this hell, So it wants to stop. And it's easy to talk yourself out of continuing. So the biggest thing for me is if you can just keep going and do the best that you can do, that's really been a big, big thing for me.
Super important. I try and tell that even with my clients doing like a couch to 5K. It's again, doesn't matter how big or small your race is or what competition you're doing. Mindset is always key.
Definitely.
I'm assuming, like, you still train clients now, right?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Perfect. Do your clients take a lot of what you do and kind of like not copy you, but like mimic what you do with like the mindset and the way you train and just your personality, like how you put that forward?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm really big with that with my clients, just motivating them and, just getting them to do their workouts and give their absolute best. And I'm really, really fortunate in that, I've inspired a lot of my clients to go out and do some of these races. So I've had clients do, like the 5K Spartan race all the way up to like an 8-hour, ultra, and we just build bit by bit. And I just tell them, keep going, just do your best. And whatever your best is that day is what you do.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
So like what, one of the questions I have written down here is, what's the toughest thing you've had to face during a race, and how did you overcome it?
The toughest thing for me, I would say, was last year. I was at World's Toughest Mudder, and I was competing again, trying to place like I had done, when I came in third. And I was doing really, really well. And I actually fell off of an obstacle and I hit my head and I knocked myself
Mm,
out and I had a concussion. And for me, the hardest thing was sort of overcoming that big setback, because to me, I had worked so hard all year on my training, and it was just something like that doesn't normally happen. Like I'm normally very, very good on obstacles, and I just so happened to slip off one that I've always been able to conquer before, and overcoming, just like getting back into racing was a little bit hard for me. I was a little, I just like, I just was so disappointed that I fell, and I kept
mhm.
replaying the situation over and over and over in my mind. And like, I was upset and I was crying. And then I really had to tell myself, like, you need to get over it. Like, what's done is done. Stop your pity party. It's literally getting you nowhere. You look ridiculous. Like,
Mhm.
get over yourself. And then I felt so much better. I was like, okay, brush it off and you're going to Iceland and you're going to win. And I just kept telling myself that over and over and over again. And then I went to Iceland and I used all that fuel and fire and like just had total vengeance on the course. And that was like my proudest moment of like my entire racing career, was just like getting over that huge setback and then completely dominating my next race. Yeah.
Nice. Very
I
nice.
tried.
So I know, and I'm sure everyone listening knows that you're very good at inspiring yourself, which is amazing, and having a lot of grit. Is there someone in your life that's also like a big inspiration for you for doing what you do, both whether it's racing or just doing what you do for a living?
Yeah, for sure. Like I would say I have like two or three big inspirations. My first one is a guy, his name is Ray Zahab. And
Hmm.
he's this like crazy ultra endurance runner. And I had watched a motivational speech from him somewhere on the internet like years ago before I started. And he just went through like his own journey and he talked about how he was a pack a day smoker and how he
Mm.
saw this crazy race in the Yukon and it just sort of called to him. And he showed up at this race and, he's like this unknown guy and he's standing at the start line and there's sponsored athletes with like top of the line gear and here he is with his little shitty sled and his fucking like crap tent. And he just said, he just kept focusing on, run to the next hill, run to the next tree, just keep going. And then he ended up winning
Yeah,
that race.
that's
And I was
awesome.
so inspired. And I just thought, okay, like, that's kind of what my journey is. I want to go and do the death race. Nobody knows who I am. Like, I don't have sponsors.
Hmm.
But if I just keep going, I could do it too.
Hmm.
And then the other big inspiration for me is this girl. Her name is Deanna Blagg, and she's from Australia. Um, she's in her late 40s, but she has a really good story. She's been living with HIV for the last 20 years, and she's also a breast cancer survivor. And she races in the
Mm.
races that I do, and she usually places like top three. Like she's absolutely
Nice.
amazing. And I'm like, if she can go through all that she goes through, I can.
For
Yeah.
sure. Have you heard of David Goggins?
Um, no, who is he?
I'm going to send you something after. This guy, he just came out with a book. He used to be a Navy SEAL, but before being a Navy SEAL, he had to do like this 100-mile timing or race or whatever. And this guy, he just wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but he doesn't do any endurance racing, and he pretty much forced himself to do this death race. And he had I think he had like fractures in his shins. His feet were just
Oh
so
my God.
fucked up. And I think he was at like a mile like 80 or something like that. He talks about it. I saw him speak not long ago, and how he learned how to tape his feet. I can't remember where, but he learned how to tape his feet a certain way so that his feet wouldn't have a flexion. So when he'd run, it was like literally his feet were like just one big piece that wasn't able to flex. And then his feet eventually went numb, so he couldn't feel his injuries. Yeah, it was fucked.
Oh
And he
my
finished
God.
it, which is crazy. Yeah, it was fucking mental. But I gotta send you his stuff. But this is one guy, if you read his story, you're gonna be like mind blown. His
That's
story is
amazing.
incredible.
It just goes to show, right? Like if you're super focused on your goal, you can always find a way to achieve it. Like there's always a way you can get there.
Yeah. And that's one thing he actually talks about too, is it's not about being motivated, it's about being driven.
Yeah.
And he differentiates the two so well. But I love this guy, and he just came out, I think his book just launched like 2 weeks ago. And it's definitely on my list to get, even though I've already seen him speak.
Yeah.
But I will send you. I'm gonna send you his
totally.
stuff.
I want to read his
sure.
book. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty kick-ass. He's super intimidating because he's very like Navy SEAL, very, I'm like, what? Yeah, super nice dude. And I think we all want to know for the last part here is what is your next? What is Morgan's next biggest challenge? Your next big challenge?
Well, Iceland is next weekend, and then I've got 2 really, really big challenges on my radar. So one of my biggest dreams has been to run in the Barkley Marathon. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay,
really,
so there's
no.
a documentary. It used to be on Netflix, but it's like one of the hardest marathons in the world. It's over 100 miles, and you've got 60 hours to do it, which for like a standard 100-mile race is like an obscene amount of time. But this isn't like your ordinary race. It's like crazy mountain, steep climbs. The course isn't marked. So you have to be able to navigate, like read a compass and a map type thing. And it's like super crazy.
Millennials will not do well
I'm like
with that.
already so like it's crazy, and like you can't just like go on the internet and sign up for this race. It's like kind of like a secret thing, so you sort of have to know somebody who's done it, or like be a friend of someone who's done the race, and then there's like a whole secret way to like apply for the race. And it's taken me a year to figure it out. So but
you did it.
I figured out when to apply and how to do it. So I'm going to do that. And I'm just like really, really hoping that I'll get chosen to do it. So that's one of the big things. And then I want to set another Guinness World Record. I want to go for a half marathon with 100 pounds. And then, get this, the ultimate is a marathon with 100 pounds.
You just said that doing 10 kilometers was the worst thing ever. And now you want to do like 24.
Because
and then
so
42.
Terrible, like, while you're doing it. But then there's also like really awesome things about it. Like the really cool thing when I was doing the 10K with the 100 pounds was I had some friends with me, and, I was at the last kilometer and I'm just dying. Like, I need this backpack off of me. But like, the next thing I know is we run by and there's this tent and they're playing music, and they were singing like Sweet Caroline. And all of my friends just started singing it, and we're just like yelling like Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba. And like, it seems so stupid, but it was actually just like one of my most favorite moments. And like, it was a really, really cool like bonding experience with all of my friends, and like then to cross the finish line and have everybody there. Like, yes, it was awful carrying 100 pounds for 10 kilometers, but like it was so worth it when I finished.
Crazy.
Yeah, so, So
you want to do a half and a full.
I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will find a way.
Yo, you better have the Uber app downloaded real quick.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I had to.
So you can just click that Uber.
Like, there's no walking after that.
Fuck. Like, how were your legs after that?
Oh, they were mangled. And that was just from 10K. Like, I remember I crossed the finish line. I ate like half a bagel and then I just laid in the grass. My friends like had to help carry me to the car because like my hip flexors were on fire.
Destroyed.
Oh, they were so destroyed. And like all of my training is always, you know, in trails or like a bit on a treadmill, you know, but like I don't.
Yeah, now it's on fucking asphalt.
Yeah, I don't run on that. So like I was a mess.
Shit.
Yeah.
Well,
good times.
I want to say thank you for fucking coming on this podcast, but I do really want you to give a shout out to your sponsors.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, without them, you probably wouldn't be able to, well, I mean, you probably would do it, but you've got some really kick-ass support.
Yeah, definitely.
So who are the sponsors that help you out?
So one is Yancey Camp. So it's this guy named Yancey Culp. He makes my training programs. He lives in Texas. And if anybody's interested in following my training, you can sign up with him, and you get 3 of my workouts a week. So you can sort of like, if you have an ultra goal in mind, that's something you can do, and it's like $30 a month. Like it's really, really good. And my other one is Millbrook. So they make tactical gear. That's where I get like my waterproof rain jacket, my pants, you know, like my running shoes and all that, which is super, super amazing. And then my other one is Mud Gear. They make compression socks, and they're specially designed for obstacle course racing. So they're like reinforced in the heel and the toes. Just so like when you're doing rope climbs and stuff like that, you're not going to get, you know, like rope burn and everything. So yeah, they help me out so much. They're amazing.
Sweet. Well, thanks to those sponsors.
Yes,
Morgan
thank you.
And I mean, if you guys want to reach out to Morgan, all you got to do is click on or just go down to the info section. I'm going to have all of Morgan's info there so you can follow her. So if you are interested in training like Morgan, I mean, you can probably reach out to her. I'll have her info on there. And then you can follow Morgan as she hits Iceland again in what? This is like a week from now?
It's next Saturday. Yeah.
So I'm gonna make sure this podcast gets out real quick. That way people can follow you. And yeah, really appreciate you coming on. You're my first crazy ultra endurance athlete.
Thank you. It's super fun
Savage.
to be on here. I really appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, man. You popped in my head the other day. I'm like, oh my God, Morgan would be perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. You're a female kicking some serious ass.
I try.
So, guys, if you want to follow Morgan, again, click on all the info, which I'll have on the bottom of this. Follow her on Instagram. You have a Facebook page?
Yeah.
Or do you just...
I do, but I'm mostly on Instagram. So if you want to follow worlds_toughest_Morgan. And I'm always like, I love answering questions. So if you want to send me messages or anything like that, I will respond.
Boom. I will put that up so everyone listening can creep the shit out of you.
Yeah, do it.
I know I'm going to wish you good luck probably before your Iceland thing anyway, but I'm going to wish you good luck now and hope that you bring home that gold medal again.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
Fuck, I still can't believe you're doing that. It's so crazy to me, but you know what? I will cheer you on. We all will. But again, thank you for coming on, and I'll let you go back to your boyfriend so you can start gaming now that the Wi-Fi is going to be free.
I was like, Luke, get off your game! Get off! Sorry,
Luke. Sweet. Well, thanks, guys, for listening to episode 16 of The Candid Savage. We'll be back next time with some more fun podcast episodes for you. If you guys have any ideas of what you want to hear on The Candid Savage, feel free to write me, and I'll find someone to fill that slot. So thanks, guys, and thanks, Morgan, and we will check y'all later.